Hey paisanos, it's me, Hamish Steele, and welcome to another Super Mario Moment. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing Wario Land Shake It. It came out for the Nintendo Wii in 2008. It is the 6th installment in the Wario Land series, and currently the final game to have that title of Wario Land. Joining me to discuss this, I think, overlooked little classic is Russ from the Kaiju ComicCast. Hello, thank you for joining.
Wow, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is our second Super Wario moment, officially, although he has come up in other episodes. Yeah, so I mentioned Kaiju ComicCast, but tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been podcasting for a few years now. I've had multiple different shows, but right now my baby is Kaiju ComicCast, which is about Kaiju comics. I love comic books. It's probably my favorite medium on the planet. And I love Kaiju so much, especially, Godzilla. And I wanted to combine those two loves and try to do a podcast that no one else was really doing because, there's a billion Godzilla podcasts that talk, and I wanted to do something a little bit more unique. So I started Kaiju ComicCast, and it's my first time doing a weekly show, which has been a little bit more stressful than I'm used to, but I'm really enjoying it. Hamish has been nice enough to be on there twice now. And it seems to be getting some traction, and I'm happy about it.
Well, as a comic artist and Kaiju super fan, it was inevitable that our paths would cross and that I would discover your show. For people who only tune into this for Mario, I talk about Godzilla on pretty much every other podcast. That's why I started a Mario podcast, because I needed to talk about Mario somewhere. But yeah, you do great stuff. I think Kaiju comics are really interesting because they're having a real boom lately. So it's kind of like a great time to start this show. I've definitely got a little backlog of Kaiju comics I haven't started reading yet. The new K-size saga, I think it's called,
yeah.
or era. I've got a few of them, so maybe after we've recorded, I'll sit down and finally tackle a few of those. So thank you for coming on the show. I'd love to know what your history is. You talk about comics as your favorite medium, but what's your history of gaming?
Oh, I've been a gamer for almost as long as I can remember. Like, I don't think it was hers from childhood, but the first console I ever played that my mom put in front of me was an Atari 2600. And we played Pac-Man. And that soon evolved into my first gaming console was the PlayStation 1. And believe it or not, especially with me being a guest on this show, I didn't have a Nintendo console for a long time. Probably till the GameCube. I got a GameCube and a Game Boy Advance around the same time. But I video games, big part of my life for sure.
Well, I think that story adds a little bit of detail as to why you specifically chose Wario Land Shake It, which I'll just say this. On social media, I mentioned that this was going to be the first time I was covering a game I hadn't played before starting this podcast. I have since bought it and played it on an actual on a Wii U, but with a Wiimote, as it was intended. And I said on social media, okay, I've bought a game to play. It's the only clue I gave is that it's from 2008, and not a single person has got it right what I'm covering.
Wow.
I think I was a bit insulted that some people thought I hadn't played Mario Galaxy and Mario Brawl and Smash Bros. Brawl and stuff. But I'm insulted myself but it's taken till now to play Wario Land Shake It, or as it's called in Europe and my version, the Shake Dimension, which I don't know which title's better, but
I kind of like that one better. But
Shake It sounds a little bit like it's trying to be like the WarioWare games. Like it
sounds like a Wario Just Dance game. That's what
it does. So I'm just interested, like, why first of all, were there any other Mario games that you thought about choosing? And then second, why Wario Land?
Well, other games that I thought about, like until this year, I had only fully beaten like 2 Mario games, like actual Mario games. I've remedied that now. But most of my Mario fandom comes from the crossover games, but I'm also a big Donkey Kong fan. I'm a big Wario fan. So some of the other games that I considered were like the brand new Donkey Kong Bonanza, which was fresh in my mind. And I don't think I sent this in the original email that I sent you, but I considered Super Mario Advance for a brief time. It's a remake of a game that a lot of people are weird about. But
Yeah.
But I wanted to do at least either Wario Land 4 or Wario Land Shake It, and we settled on Shake It because you had never played it, and I loved that I picked something that Hamish hadn't played.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you did. I would have happily talked about Wario Land 4, but we had another guest doing Wario Land 3, and I thought that Wario Land 4 might come up again. So if people suggest a more obscure title, I tend to pick that one because as much as it's fun to talk about Mario 64, like what is there left to say to a degree? With this game, it's almost like not only is it that I think it was overlooked at the time, but it's basically, I'm not going to say it's lost media, but it's not on the eShop. It's not like there hasn't been a remake or anything. I think a lot of people might never get to play it unless, I will say, it's not the kind of rare that it's like really expensive. I got mine for I think £12 or like $20 maybe, maybe less, like at just a game store. I like figured they might have it. Any game store that has like a million Wii games in a row, you might see it. But yeah, it's. I'm really glad we chose it, and I'm still not sure how we're going to tackle Donkey Kong Bonanza. We'll definitely do an episode about it soon, but I don't want to spoil anything about it, and I think it might be worth doing as like a season 2 episode where we like. I feel like we'll maybe get a few guests back to talk about it. So Wario Land Shake It, or the Shake Dimension, why specifically do you think, I mean, you said that you hadn't played many Mario games, but you've played technically a Mario game that very few people have. What is it about this game that you like the most, and why did you pick it?
Well, so I got into these games with the Wii U. The Wii U, I still think, has the greatest like virtual console of all time. And like I said, I didn't grow Nintendo games, so when I got the Wii U, I got to experience like all these games I missed. I briefly had a Nintendo 64 and played like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, but the back catalog is what I was missing. And I remember when they put out the 4 original Wario Land games on the Wii U, and I just gobbled them up. That was the same time I became a Metroid fan. That's my all-time favorite video game series is Metroid. But and then I found out, oh, so there's another Wario Land, but it's a Wii game and it has motion controls. I mean, I got to look into this. And then I was like, oh my God, this is like hand drawn. And why have I never heard of this? So It was probably about 10 years ago when I was playing through all the Wario Land games, and
Mm.
I picked up Shake It, and I loved it. I was blown away by it. I couldn't believe what I was looking at on a Wii, because the Wii was not known for its graphics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I always think games that go for a big artistic swing like this, and like things like Wind Waker, age so
Mhm.
much better than anything else. It's actually just a shame that this is still on a Wii, because the I would say the downside to the art style, I'm going to play a little bit of footage for it for now, and this is very low res actually, but is that because of the Wii U's lack of HD, like even though it's hand drawn, it's quite pixelated, so it
Yeah.
slightly defeats some of the appeal, but it still is gorgeous.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but because of the hand drawn aspect of it, we do kind of miss out on some of the silliness that the series uh,
Mm,
kind of brought with its sprites before. I know you talked about that on a previous episode, how one of the appeals of the third game was how funny the sprite work was. But I think it's an interesting juxtaposition where, like, this is even pixelated, it still looks great. Um, yeah,
mm.
I'm still impressed. I mean, I just played through it again, and I hadn't played through it since I played it 10 years ago, but I played through it for the show, and I was like, the Wii. It's a little fuzzy, but it looks better than most Wii games. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. And especially when I think about how Wario World, which was a GameCube
Hmm.
game, looked, which still looks okay, but like, um, this is definitely a game I would love a proper remake, or
Yeah.
just a sort of like re-release in HD. I think it could do really well, especially because the motion controls. So I'm jumping all over the place, but I'm trying to figure out why I didn't play it, because I'm a
Hmm.
huge Mario fan. I love the Wario Land series, and I wonder if just it was a busy year of games. I didn't have as much disposable income, and I was choosing between stuff like other games that came out in this year, included like Mario Kart Wii and stuff like that. And I think it maybe got middling-ish reviews, kinds of
Hmm.
7s out of 10, um, which I maybe get.
Mm.
But I think it didn't deserve to basically kill off the Wario Land series.
No.
Um, and one of the reasons I think that maybe I skipped over it was hearing about the motion controls, because I think at the time, even though the selling point of the Wii was stuff like Wii Sports, I think gamers were a little bit frustrated about that being shoved into games when it didn't feel like it was necessary. And when the game is called Shake
Hmm.
It, it sounds like you're going to be doing that every 5 seconds. And you're not doing that. But I actually quite like the motion controls.
Hmm.
How do you feel
Yeah,
about them?
I do. I do too. I like them. And I was not a big fan of motion controls back in the day. I didn't have a Wii. My sister had a Wii. It's, the more she was the more casual gamer of the
Mhm.
two of us. But the first time I played this, and like the first thing you see is hold the Wii remote sideways, and I was like, okay, now we're talking. But yeah, I think the motion controls are intuitive, like they make sense. Like you're not constantly using them unless you're in one of those vehicles that require it, and those can get a little tedious with the motion controls, but I never feel like it's to the point where it's not like I could not get into Skyward Sword because I didn't like the motion controls. I just didn't.
Mm.
Beautiful game, but I just couldn't. It didn't click with me. This one much more simple, and I think it works really well, and it almost creates a rhythm to your gameplay, especially during boss fights, because it's almost it's like a glorified bop it where you're like, okay, I need to shake here and then I need to tilt here, and it's really unique.
I mean, we're Godzilla fans, and to me, there's a Wii game called Godzilla Unleashed, and that is, to me, still the most egregious motion controlling ever. Where basically, imagine playing Street Fighter, but some of the moves are just mapped to like doing that or doing that, and then holding a button and doing that, and it's so unnecessarily awful that I think maybe I was steered off of Wario Land, when I do think it's not that the game would be spoiled if you replaced it with buttons, but I think it has a pretty nice balance of, because I actually think that the shaking it is oddly the kind of more annoying one. Just because basically the entire game you're coming across bags of gold and you're just shaking them all the gold out. But actually, I like the vehicles. I think the submarine controls were really cool. I think there's something really satisfying when there's parts of the game when you're on like a pole and you're spinning around.
Yes,
That's really funny. And also the aiming of like, there's sort of like aiming things to throw. I think all of that stuff's really perfect, and I think would work just as well. Like, I think that stuff would work just as well on a Joy-Con.
But I would not be surprised if the Switch eventually does like a Wii console thing, because the Joy-Cons can kind of replicate a Wii remote. I mean, I can see them doing it. I can't see them doing every game, but I never thought they'd have GameCube, and they did. Here we are.
Yeah, they've done ports of Mario Galaxy and Skyward Sword and and I think Pikmin 3 maybe. That was a Wii game.
Yes,
no, Wii U.
yeah.
But I'm excited about seeing what the Switch 2 can do with its mouse controls, and seeing if there's some way of bringing back as many Wii games as possible, because otherwise that whole generation is just going to be gone forever, and it was such an important successful part. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the game itself. You mentioned that you played all the previous Wario Land games, and I think this game takes a lot from the first one and kind of the fourth one, and it takes a little bit here and there, but it does feel like quite a different tone to the previous ones. Do you think of it as like a successful next step, or do you think it kind of goes backwards in some ways?
I think in some ways it's meant to, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's meant to appeal to a wider audience, whereas the Wario Land games get super weird by the fourth one. And so Shake It almost seems like, okay, we're going to try to go for a more broad appeal. Like Wario, and this wasn't the case in the fourth one anyway, but he's not immortal anymore. There's going to be less weird transformations, although we do get a couple in some later levels. But some of the best part of Wario Land 3 and 4 is like getting stung by a bee and you floating through the through the air with your head. But I think that it's a natural progression, especially on the Wii, one of the most bought consoles ever, that you want to appeal to a wider audience. And I think it still has the essence of what makes Wario Land fun, but maybe it does lack some of the kind of charm of the GBA game. But I think it works.
Yeah, I mean, the anime style is such a big departure, but I do think there's a lot of still personality, and sometimes like still like any Wario Land game, I laugh when he does certain things because he's just like funny to look at. There's certain animations that are really perfect, and I'm glad that they bring back like the fire thing, which actually works exactly as it did in the previous games. But I do think the vibes are different, and one of the ways I was thinking was actually like kind of just the music and the sound effects. I think the music has some nice tracks for some really funky stuff, but it's not quite as like farty and burpy as like the music has been previously. I find the songs actually quite chill, weirdly.
Totally. I think there's one track, and again, I can't remember what level it is, but the music changes once you grab the the little fairy. I can't remember what they're called, but the little in every level, and the music will change because you have a timer now. I swear that one of these levels has like a remix of the underground theme from Mario. Like it sounds really similar.
Yeah, I noticed a few moments of the music sounding like other things. Like there's a train level that I swear has a little bit of there's like Calamari Desert in Mario Kart 64 as the track with the train, and you're driving through a desert, and I think it has a little bit of that in there. But like I felt there's the sort of casino or no fairground kind of casino level, and that music felt the most Wario Landy to me.
Yes. Yep.
Otherwise, it's quite eclectic. But then Wario Land 4 started having like vocal tracks and stuff, so it's been weird for a while.
Yeah. Speaking of sound effects, I'm weird about sound effects where I can pick out like the most minuscule thing. When he does his kind of butt slam, it sounds exactly like a character in Tekken called Martial Law. It's just his sound clip, and I'm like, there's no way. But I keep listening, and I'm like, this is a sound clip from Tekken. Why is this in here like this? I have no proof, so I'm gonna sound like a raving lunatic, but it sounds like a Tekken sound clip.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a big sound bank that they're all taking their sound effects from. I actually wasn't even paying attention if this uses any like Wiimote speaker sound stuff. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
But
I can't recall.
I think in general, like it has a lot of good sound effects, if only because of Wario's personality and remarks. I even from like the first menu, he's just like wiggling his butt at you, and I think the plot line's quite funny where like this fairy has said like our queen is captured. He's like, okay, and they've also captured the bottomless coin sack that allows you to have infinite money, and he's like, okay, I'll save you. Feels very classic Wario. One difference is that we see the return of Captain Syrup, and this is also to date her final appearance, but it does feel like this was kind of like a proto bringing back Pauline type thing. And I'm a huge fan of Captain Syrup, and even though in this game she has a slightly different role, and I would say a slightly odd personality, which makes sense when the game ends, I think, but Do you feel like Captain Syrup deserves her proper Donkey Kong Bonanza return, like Pauline?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think she's great, and like she has that legacy. And yeah, in this game she's like weirdly kind of flirty with Wario, but again, like you said, there's a reason for that. And yeah, she's great. And you know, I will always be happy with more like female representation in any media, really. So it put Captain Syrup in Mario Kart for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that I feel this might be her last hurrah for a while. And especially because I think she works so well as a foil to Wario, because they're
Hmm.
both treasure hunters, they're both plunderers. Um, and I think it's kind of interesting that she does seemingly flirt with Wario a lot in this game, and he does not reciprocate it at all. Like, he's not googly eyed over Captain Syrup. He just wants gold.
Yeah.
And she
Yes.
just happens to have it half the time.
Hmm. It's weird that she didn't even. Maybe she did, and I'm not remembering. Was she not even in like what were those little like? They weren't echoes, but the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, the little what are those called?
Stickers
It's like the
or
mm,
yeah, the
yeah, they
world
were
light.
basically glorified stickers.
Look, I'm on.
Because I think the Shake King was one of those in that game, but
Let's
I
see.
can't remember if she
Okay,
was.
she was. So her last appearance
Oh,
is in 2018 in Smash Ultimate as a spirit. And then I don't know
Spirit.
in yeah, I don't know in which form, but according to Animal Crossing, there's apparently she's mentioned in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Um, which I'm not sure
Wow.
how that I'm not sure how that comes up, but I get a feeling that maybe Gulliver the seagull will mention that he, I don't know, sailed away with some pirate queen or something. But she has such a fun design, and I agree. I'm always pro adding more female characters, and also, you know, characters who aren't princesses, and especially
Yes.
villainous characters or morally dubious characters. I
Hmm.
think is so much fun.
Hmm.
And so I'm just reading. Apparently, in her spirit battle in Smash Bros. Ultimate, um, items will be pulled towards the enemy. So she's stealing things, I suppose. And the enemy is easily distracted by items, and that's their way of representing Captain Syrup. So she's still somewhere in some
Wow.
developer's mind. Um,
Yeah.
RIP to a real one. Um, so, speaking a bit about where the Wario series went after this, have you played any of the WarioWare games?
So yes, I have played some of the WarioWare games. I mean I don't think there's any way I've played all of them.
Mhm.
Probably the original one I had on the Wii. I think there was a Switch one that I played. I they're fun for about 20 minutes, and then it's I don't need any more of it. I every time they announce a WarioWare game, I die a little bit inside because it's not a Wario Land game.
Mm.
Um, so I every time I there's a Nintendo Direct and I see Wario pop up, I don't get my hopes up because I'm like, no, this is a WarioWare, guarantee it. And you especially know if he's in like that biker outfit, okay, this is going to be like a WarioWare. It's not a real Wario. Fine, they're fine.
Yeah, I do like the first few, and that I will say this, I'm kind of interested in what they could do with a mouse-based uh WarioWare
Mm,
game. But I think the real salt in the wound is Smash Brothers again, where Wario's whole move set is like inspired by those games, and his whole design is inspired by those games, to the point that in Brawl, which came out the same year, he didn't even have his like side charge as an attack, which seems criminal, basically.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm always waiting for Wario Land to truly return from the wars. There was a game called Wario Master of Disguise. Doesn't have the land. I don't know why,
Yes,
but have you played
I've
that?
played that. It's really nothing like a Wario Land game. I remember it being fine. I didn't finish it. I like how Wario Land 4 did it, where Wario Land 4 kind of had those WarioWare mini games in it. And if you completed enough of them, you got like a token that would help you fight a boss. So that would be the way to bring it back, to like make both camps happy, like combine them somehow. But I think it's pretty clear that WarioWare must sell a lot more than Wario Land did.
Yeah. I don't know how, I don't really know how well Shake It did, but I wonder if it's the case that kind of burnt them for a few years. But Donkey Kong Bonanza to me sort of proves that anything is possible. Like you never know when Wario's going to get his spotlight again.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if
Right.
if there's what sort of inspired you to play all the Wario Land games, and is like what is it about Wario as a character that you love so much?
Well, ever since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with like villains. And I guess it's probably because I'm the furthest thing from a villain. Like I can't imagine myself doing evil things, but I've always been drawn to evil characters, and I think evil characters kind of make their stories more interesting. And so anytime that I was given the opportunity to play as a bad guy, I jumped at it. So when I found out that there was an entire like series where you're essentially playing as like the quote unquote bad Mario, that was the like initial appeal. Like, okay, you're playing as a bad guy. Of course, in these games, there is a worse guy than
Yeah.
Wario, but yeah, I think that was the initial idea, and then I just really enjoyed the gameplay. I love that it wasn't just like, oh, stomp on the enemy and get to the end. It was kind of unique, especially when they introduced the grabbing the key and then having to do like a Metroid like self-destruct run back to where you're coming from style thing. I thought it was really unique and kind of pulse pounding. Like it really gets the blood flowing when you're being timed to do something. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it originates from playing as a bad guy.
Yeah, and that brings me on to this game's difficulty level, because it does this odd thing where getting from just basically completing a level isn't the most challenging thing ever, but the
Right.
game is so hard if you want to actually 100% it. And you do have to start 100%ing levels in order to progress, because you need to keep making money in order to like buy more
Yeah.
levels. And so I thought, I'd heard this game was like short. I'd heard the game it doesn't have that many levels, but it took me a long time to get through it, because you really like the game has so many challenges where like at just the wrong moment you make a mistake and you've like failed a whole challenge. Do you think this
Yes.
is one of the most challenging ones?
Yes. To put it bluntly, this game is pretty brutal. I think the bosses get really hard in this too. Um, and I'm a Souls like veteran. Like there are bosses in this that have made me sweat more than a Dark Souls boss. And and that's not even taking into consideration, like you said, kind of like every level has like these puzzles to like find all the treasures and all the coins and to complete the missions. Yeah, it gets really hard, and sometimes it's really cryptic what you're meant to do. Like, I will
Mm.
try things over and over and be like, why is this not working? Yeah, and like you mentioned it, this game has one of my pet peeves, and it's something that also Donkey Kong Bonanza does, is you can't progress if you don't have enough money. And I hate it when games do that. Just let me play the game through.
Yeah.
That's all I want. The fact that you have to go and buy the maps, like, it makes story sense, but it kind of it's a bump in the road. Like, it kind of messes with the flow.
Yeah, I spent the first half of playing it feeling like, I'm playing this for a podcast. I'm not going to 100% it. I'm just going to go through the levels and whatever. But then you can't. You need to go and grind. You need to go and actually hit those money goals and those levels. And unlike most Nintendo games, where these like all extra challenges, you can almost accidentally do them. This you have to really be concentrating,
Yes.
and they're so challenging. There's things like don't touch the water, and you're basically in a water level. um, I just
Yeah.
Do you have any like favorite levels or challenges like that?
The first one that comes to mind, is one you mentioned earlier, is like the casino one.
Mm.
Um, I love that one, and I think it's like you said, it's the most Wario Land of the whole game. Um, you also mentioned like the levels where you're on the gymnastic kind of pole, like flipping. I thought those were really fun, especially where you're like going over those spikes and then you eventually end up in a cannon, and it's really fun. The jungle ones are always cool to me because they remind me of DK. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I think that casino one's the best.
I um I love the casino. I love some of the level titles. They have some really funny puns. There's the Just Plains, there's Sneak Peek, and one of my favorites is the It's All Mine, which I think is a good one. Um, uh, yeah, and also they're just like each level has its own, basically not art style, but like completely different setting. It's not like there's 10 grass levels and then you get to a castle like some Mario games. It's like um
Mhm.
level 1 is sort of an Aztec ruin, level 2 is a desert, level 3 is a kind of graveyard. It's constantly different and
Mhm.
moving, and it makes me think like maybe that is one of the reasons why it doesn't have an endless list of levels, because they had really committed to this art style, and so
Yeah.
that led to them making all these extra challenges so that you have to replay them over and over again.
Mm. Well, let me ask you about a point that we were kind of discussing earlier. What did you think about the boss battles? Because I mean, maybe I'm alone, and I know you've been playing Hollow Knight, so you know about hard bosses, but I feel like they got pretty difficult towards like the last half of the game.
Yeah, and especially doing a Mario podcast compared to the average Mario boss, these are very
Yeah.
challenging. You are not jumping on its head 3 times. You are, and as you said, with a Wiimote, you are twisting and turning. Um, the first one that really I was like, how on earth am I going to do this? And it wasn't even that hard when I eventually just like got into the rhythm of it. Was the Hot Rod, what's he called? We've got a Hot Roderick race where you're like both in cars, and that's not even very.
Yes. Ugh. Yeah.
It's not even that tricky, especially if you were just playing with buttons, it would be really simple. But it's because you have to both
Mm,
tilt
right.
to drive and also tilt kind of up to aim at things flying your way, that
Mm,
you're basically sort of doing this. And again, if that's not your vibe, if you're like, no motion controls for me, then maybe you'd find it very irritating. But I played it once, I died. When I went in to play it again, I kind of really appreciated that I was actually having to concentrate properly on how to do this. And that can't be said for most Mario bosses. Um, even a
hmm.
lot of Wario bosses up to this point have been like pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first one that really drove me crazy was the clown.
Oh
The
yes.
floating clown. I don't that some of
Um,
those like obstacles that it's shooting out at you, I'm like, how am I supposed to dodge this? Like how? Um and the Shake King at the end, I think he's a really cool looking bad guy. And like his first two phases are pretty self-explanatory, but then it turns into a bullet hell in his
mm,
last phase. And it took me a minute to realize that you can interrupt some of his moves with a shake. Like I knew that his like you could interrupt when he's going to throw a bunch of minions at you, but you can also interrupt his fireball move with a ground pound. And I'm so glad that I figured that out because it made it a lot
mm.
easier.
Yeah, it makes me think that a good way for the Wario Land series to continue is to Mario is always Mario always has to be kind of accessible to everyone, like of all ages and all skill levels. And they keep the challenging stuff like kind of hidden in special worlds and at the back. I love the idea of Wario
Hmm.
being the kind of Dark Souls, Hollow Knight to Mario's more like simple platformer. Um, and this game kind of gets there.
Hmm.
Like it's really challenging, even though on the surface it might seem quite simple. Um, and I mean, I think what we're trying to say is that sometimes in these battles, like the clown, it's not so much that it's difficult if you watched footage of it, but you have to remember that the whole time you're like doing this and like aiming, and
Yeah.
it's
Yes. Yeah.
many reasons why it's challenging. Um,
Yeah, I grew up with Crash Bandicoot, so I know how hard that platformers can be. Like I played Crash well before I played a Mario or Sonic game.
mm,
But uh Crash 2 was my first one and I thought that one was just difficult enough. It was not nearly as hard as the first one. So I'm accustomed to hard games, and I was still like, I had to fight some of those later bosses multiple times.
mm, for sure, same. Um, are there any other sort of levels or moments from the game we haven't discussed that you want to make sure we cover?
Um, well, we mentioned they kind of bring back the powers, like the fire and the snowball, and um, I love how the levels are laid out.
Mm,
Like when you're going through it and you see like stuff above you and you're like, well, how would I ever reach that? And then you'll find like the little secret passage, or um there's a level, it's kind of a Chinese themed um level where you have like these wooden like right angle like logs that are attached to each other that you have to like form platforms out of. And if you move them the perfect way on your way through, you can get in the little speed booster and just run straight back without any problems. So I
mm,
like that there's like that extra Like, it's encouraging you to spend time to make your way back easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the escape moments are thrilling, but more often than not, I was failing them terribly, and not using the speed boost as much as I should have. And I definitely, even though I've now like covered the episode for the podcast, I'm gonna definitely go back and try and get some of those challenges done, because I feel like I missed out on a lot.
Mm-hmm. And now we're in this kind of world where like indie developers can make like these spiritual successors to games that haven't gotten a sequel for a while. And Wario Land actually has two. I haven't played Pizza Tower, but Anton Blast is like, it's Wario Land, but it's a little bit more raunchier. The main antagonist is the devil, and it's way harder than Wario Land. Like, it is brutal. Like, I wanted to pull my hair out playing that game. So Wario Land is the right amount. Just keep it like, it's just difficult enough. Like I was saying about Crash 2, it's that sweet spot. But Anton Blast, I'm glad it exists, but it's too hard.
Yeah, I live in a time of there's so many games we can play. So my sort of the patience I would have had as a kid with a really hard game, I don't necessarily have anymore. I'm just going to play something else, which is, I guess, why I do a Mario podcast and not a Souls-like podcast. Just before we go, I was looking through the Nintendo, the Mario wiki, just for any information about the game, and you are not going crazy. The Foul Water Falls escape theme references the underground background music from Mario. This is an artifact from an unused level called Plumber's Cave, which was scrapped, but they kept the music in there. So there was probably a very Mario-inspired underground level at some point that they cut. So I definitely noticed a few other little sort of sound effects or musical notes or things from the Mario series. This was actually the first game developed by a Good Feel, in terms of with Nintendo, but they went on to do the like Yoshi's Woolly World and Crafted World and the Princess Peach Showtime game that came out last year or the other year.
Yeah.
So I'm probably they'll probably still be working on Yoshi games, but it would be nice if they got to get the reins of Wario again.
Yeah, for sure.
This brings us on to the section of the show where we do quick fire questions. Treat it like you've just rescued the fairy and you're rushing back to the start of the podcast while everything's falling apart. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. If Wario shook you, what would fly out?
Probably action figures and comic books, I would imagine.
Very valuable in the world of Wario Land. What level from this game would you most like to live on?
I guess I'll just say the casino level because it's so pretty. I would love to live there.
You'd lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I know we've talked about Wario a lot, but who is your main in a Mario Kart or a Mario spin-off situation?
Typically Bowser.
Nice.
I have been hoping for a Bowser like solo game my whole life. Like, please, Nintendo, give him his own game.
I know.
But if I don't play as Bowser, I will play as either Wario or Waluigi.
for sure. I think a Bowser game would sell like hot lava, and it's sorely overdue. So which obscure Mario character or enemy, perhaps from this game, would you most like to see added to the regular Mario Kart roster?
Well, if he's not really, I guess he's obscure because he's in this game. But yeah, Shake King, put him in there. I could see him, howling around with Bowser, or I hope that rumor that King K. Rool is going to be in Mario Kart is real, because I would love that. But yeah, Shake King, he's got a really interesting design, and I always like big, strong bad guys that just punch people.
It would be it would be genuinely hysterical for Shake King to make it in before King K. Rool.
Yes, it was.
Just, so which ways of using the Wiimote do you feel we didn't see enough in Wario Land Shake It?
I guess you don't have to. There's not as much throwing puzzles as you would think, because the previous Wario games were pretty much all about that. So yeah, I guess the pointing the Wii direction and the direction you need to throw is what I wanted to see more of.
And finally, if you had the bottomless coin sack, what would you do with it?
Well, I would pay off all my and my wife's debt, and then I would probably buy my parents and my sister a new house, and then I would feed the hungry, and I would do all the charitable things I could do. I would be both selfish and unselfish at the same time, because it's bottomless. You can do whatever.
Maybe this is the thing. Maybe we don't realize that Wario is actually just trying to get him and his wife out of debt, and we should be a lot kinder. Thank you so much for coming on the Super Mario Moment. It's been a blast. I'm so happy that I've played this game, and if anyone is watching and wants to come on the show and pick an obscure game they think I haven't played that they think more people should, please let me know, because I think you should get yourself down to the nearest secondhand game store and seek this out.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love being a guest. I like being on the other side of the microphone. And yeah, not enough people have played this game, and that needs to be remedied. But a Wii or a Wii U to do it. So
yeah, before the Wii U eShop shut down, I basically downloaded every single virtual console sort of Mario game, or just games in general that I thought I needed to have. So my Wii U is very valuable to me at the moment. So yeah, where can people find you?
Well, I am on Blue Sky and Instagram and Facebook as Kaiju ComicCast. Those are my main three places I post. I also have another show that I do seasonally around Halloween time, which is Taste the Pot of Dracula. It's all about, you guessed it, Dracula. But yeah, I mean, that's where you can find me. Come talk Kaiju, come talk Dracula. I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, I have also guested on Kaiju ComicCast a couple of times, once talking about the Gorgo comics. If you don't know what Gorgo is, you are 99% of Earth's population. But it's definitely worth checking out. But I also came on recently to talk about Go Man, Champion of Earth, my new book that is now actually out. I can say that now. And I think if you like the kind of colorfulness of the Mario series, you'll have a good time with it. Super Mario Moment is a proud participant and member of the GlitterJaw Queer Podcasting Collective. We can be found on Blue Sky and Instagram at Super Mario Moment and places like that. I'm Hamish Steele. I have a Patreon if you want to support me. But I think that's everything for this week. And until next time, so long, gay Bowsers!